here to spread good news. I don't know if we're spreading any manure or if we're giving you the facts, Jack, but we will break down the Eagles and the Lions over the next 2 hours. We got less than that before John McMullen is off on a big old jet plane heading to Detroit. J-Mac, are all your reservations ready? Have you hacked it out with the wife as to when you're leaving, when you're coming back? Are you ready to go cover a Birds win?
It's funny you say that. Yeah, I felt like Steve Miller Band there. Big old jet airliner. But, Detroit, it's more the crop duster type small plane. So cross your fingers on that one. But yeah, I had said, but I told my wife weeks ago, back to back road games, which I wasn't looking forward to myself, especially coming back from Vegas, which is a grind. But yeah, same thing. You're
You
leaving again this weekend?
you
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah.
to do the crop duster thing to Vegas. They put you on a
No,
real jet plane.
that's a big old jet airliner to Vegas.
What's it take to fly to Detroit?
Not that long. It's like an hour and a half, which half of that is getting on the plane and getting off.
Right.
So it's real quick.
I've actually driven from Detroit to Philadelphia. When
It's not bad.
my father spent his couple of years in Detroit. At one point, I purchased a car. Yeah, he made me pay for it, well below market value. But I bought a car off my dad and said he was getting a new car, whatever else. You want the Toyota? Yeah, I'll take the Toyota.
Oh,
So
Toyotas, yeah, they run forever, man.
right.
That's a good decision.
Had 100,000 miles on it. It lasted for me another 100,000 on top of
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, I got on a big old jet plane out of New York. As a matter of fact, at 7 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I was on the fan till 6 a.m. and then just headed over to LaGuardia and got a flight out, and then drove my new Toyota that my father sold to me, didn't give to me, sold to me, all the way back. And man, did I make good time. That Pennsylvania Turnpike. If you're on it at the right time, you find a big enough truck to follow, you can just cruise along at like 82 miles an hour and not
Yeah.
even sweat it. The cops wave to you when you go by them at 82. As long as you're behind a big truck and you're in the slow lane, you can make very good time, which I did.
Western Pennsylvania, though, that can get a little tricky when it starts to get some weather with
Yeah.
those mountains and the hill. There's some windy stuff up there.
No,
I've made that trip too many times.
me thinks this was like in April or May, so there was no weather involved, just good speed going across. But that's the one and only time I think I've ever flown into Detroit. As a matter of fact, I have not spent quality hours there. Johnny Mac will, and then he will spend quality hours thereafter. What time are you flying back on? Or are you coming back on Sunday night?
No, Monday morning, 8 o'clock. So that's going to be a Jeff Kerr day on Birds
Okay.
365, a non Johnny Mac day. Which depending on who you are, that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
But I am, and we'll get this away over and done with right at the top. I am predicting an Eagles victory. So I'm predicting a victorious flight return for John McMullen. Not everybody is. I went to the website you contribute for, phillyvoice.com. They put all their quote unquote experts picks together. 7 guys. 4 of them picked the Eagles. 3 of them picked the Lions. One of which who's picking the Eagles is my partner, John McMullen. But you have the Eagles winning in a rather close game. The 4 guys who picked them, nobody had them winning by more than 4 points. I'm predicting Birds by double digits.
All right. Well, I mean, Detroit's not a good football team. I mean, there's no way to spin 0-7. You can talk about being close in a number of games. You can talk about Justin Tucker and Greg Joseph and long field goals, but a loss is a loss in this league, and it sort of, when you move past it, becomes black and white, and the context is lost. And all people talk about, you see what 2-5 has done to this city. You can imagine what 0-7, and obviously Detroit doesn't have the history, certainly recently, of the Eagles. So that team's been bad for a long time, and there seems to be no hope. There seems to be no hope with the Detroit Lions. And the one thing people do talk about, and Dave Burkett was on this show yesterday from the Detroit Free Press, and I've heard it from other people. They haven't stopped playing. They're playing for damn Dan Campbell. So that part is a positive. And I think the same thing holds true for Nick Sirianni, despite the week and despite the outside noise. Those guys, for the most part, seem to be still playing for Nick Sirianni. So, two struggling rookie coaches. You know, Dan had some interim work, but he's a rookie coach. Um, you know, hey, he beat one rookie coach, as you pointed out yesterday, Jody.
He
Maybe
owns
that's what he needs.
his fellow rookie coaches.
Yeah, maybe
What?
that's what he needs. Maybe that's what he needs.
1-0 on the way to 2-0. And oh, by the way, somebody pointed it out this to me yesterday, and it helped me or strengthened my conviction that the Eagles were not only going to win but win by double digits. Yes, the Lions. Most of the Lions games have ended with a score reasonably close, but they've trailed badly in almost every single game. Week 1, they ended up losing by less than one score. They were down by 28 points to the 49ers. They were down 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of, oh, by the way, points. Week number 2 against the Packers, they were down by 18 points. Week number 3, in the game in which they had the lead and Tucker kicks the 66-yard field goal with the gun to beat them, they were down 13 points in that game. They were down 13-0. Where am I? I'm up to week number 5.
Minnesota, same thing.
They were losing.
Yeah.
I got it all written down here. The Bengals, they were down
the
the
Bengals,
whole game.
They didn't even have their late run against the Bengals, who are a good football team. I think they're probably the most surprising team in the NFL. I certainly didn't think they'd make that leap forward, but they seem to be a really good team. That was they didn't have the late garbage time stuff there. Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah, they were losing to the Bears 24-7 and the Vikings 16-6.
Yeah.
So much like the Eagles, because you and I have talked about this plenty, and I think it bears repeating. Jalen Hurts' stats actually look okay. They're
not great, but
they're not great.
Okay.
But some people make them out to be god awful, and they're not. Just see where he is in the rankings in the NFL. He's not at the bottom of the list. But a whole bunch of those came in, oh, by the way, time, where the Eagles are down by several scores and Jalen's moving it up and down the field and sticking the end zone in the fourth quarter with results and statistics that make no difference whatsoever to the final score of the game. Oh, the Lions do the same thing. They fall behind and they get a bunch of points. Oh, they made it look. They only got beat by, well, they got beat. They're 0-7.
The only thing I would say, you're right.
Lose every week.
You're right. The only difference is I would say that, and if you want to throw the Carolina game, because as I said, to me, the Eagles got outplayed by Carolina, but found a way to win the game late with a block punt, some big defensive plays, and Jalen Hurts made a few big plays to win that game. So that's one where you say, okay, maybe you stole it a little bit, but then again, I thought they outplayed San Francisco and weren't able to make those types of plays. They lost that game, so that kind of evened out to me. The only thing I would say is that the Lions should have beaten the Ravens and they should have beaten the Vikings. I mean, they should have won those games and those comebacks, whereas the Eagles' comebacks, a little bit more, with the exception of Carolina, as I said, a little bit more paper tigerish in the fact that they were never really in the game. I guess if you want to stretch it and say, if they stopped the third down against Tampa Bay, they would have had a chance to tie the game and gotten the football back, but they didn't even do that. So I would say you're nitpicking, but I would say their comebacks are a little bit more paper tigerish than the Lions, at least in two games. That the two games they should have won, and that's still 2-5, even if they win them.
Right, and those were, for me, could have won, not should have won. They were when you're down.
Well, they certainly should have beaten Minnesota. They got that 2-point conversion with like 30 seconds left. I mean, the game's over, and they kick it off and they give up two big plays for being a stupid young team, and then they kick a long field goal. Now, the Baltimore game, anytime somebody hits a 66-yard field goal, even the greatest kicker of all time, that's you're kind of looking up and saying, "What have I done to you, God? What have I done to you?" And then if you listen to the people in Detroit, it probably should have been a delay a game on top of that, which would have made it a 71-yard field goal. They probably would have made that, by the way. So who cares?
Yeah, Tucker is just that good. You are correct about that. Here's the bottom line: they've lost every single week. They found new and inventive ways to lose, sometimes falling down by 28 points and making a run to get within a score. Oh, they lost. Grabbing a lead late, like they did against the Vikings, and then let the Vikings get a touch. And having a lead late and getting beat by a 66-yard field, they just plain lose. They find new ways to lose every
Oh,
single
that I
week.
agree with. Yeah, I mean there's something to say for that. I covered Denny Green way back in the day, and he was the first one. He's probably not the first one to say it, but he used to talk about preseason football, and he used to win preseason games. And I said, why, why, why do you care about winning preseason games? Now he wouldn't play the players, but he would try to win the game late if it was close, with backup players, obviously. And he said winning is a habit, and so is losing. And he's right. I mean, once you start to lose, you see it all the time. Guys start, it's human nature. They start dipping their heads and they start looking for that other shoe to drop. Where's it coming? Oh, here we go again. And then it becomes a sort of self fulfilling prophecy. So winning is a habit, losing is a habit.
The first coach to ever sell me on winning preseason games being important, I remember it seems like only yesterday and was 30 years ago, was Dick Vermeil. That he always tried to win his preseason games, much like Denny Green. He's not going to keep his starters
No.
in longer, but he expected his backups, if they're trailing, they would go to offense with pace and get to the line of scrimmage fast. He tried to win every single game because he firmly believed that there was carryover from game to game to game to game. And he coached that way and was pretty damn successful and a very popular Philadelphia coach. So I started to buy into it myself. And I think John Harbaugh would say he's had some success with that down in Baltimore
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
never loses a preseason game.
Yeah.
And they're a pretty good football team again this year. J-Mac, I think we discussed this on Tuesday. Didn't go very deep into it. I want to try and get a little bit more out of it today. What do you believe the deuce factor is in this game?
I don't
maybe it
believe
was
there
somebody
is
on
one.
maybe it was somebody on WIP who
Yeah.
said it to me Tuesday night that the Lions are going to go out and win one for deuce. I don't know if
What
that's
about
the
Dave
case.
Pitt?
Or Dave.
What about
Pitt,
Halapula
no,
Bati
as a
Baita?
matter of fact, we get the Halapulu. That's another reason why I think the Eagles are going to win. The Lions shot their load on their special team kind of out of the box plays this past week against the Rams. 2 fake punts and an onside kick, and they were successful all 3 times. They got nothing left in the magic bag of tricks.
Yeah, well, I think they knew they were outmanned against the Los Angeles Rams, who are a really good team. So they knew they would have to pull out some tricks to win that football game. I don't think they think, from talking to people in Detroit, they think they can play this game and win this game, which I don't necessarily think is the case. So I mean, this happens every week in the NFL. There's so much turnover. You're going to find people on the other team that used to be on your team and vice versa. I mean, do the Eagles want to win one for Darius Slay? I mean, he loves Detroit. Other than Matt Patricia, he's thrilled to be going back. Avonte Maddox has a Lions tattoo on. He's such a big Lions fan. He grew up in Detroit, went to high school there. Are they going to win one for Avonte? He's going home. It's going to have about 40, 50 people there. No, that kind of stuff doesn't matter. I mean, Deuce was very popular here, and you can make an argument that Jeffrey Lurie should have looked at him a little bit harder. Ultimately, I don't have a problem with the thought process that he probably wasn't ready to be a head coach. And why I say that is nobody else is interviewing the guy either. I mean, it's not like he's a hot candidate and there's steps you have to go through. And by the way, that's one of the criticisms of hiring Nick Sirianni, because people think he wasn't ready to be a head coach. He that was the only interview. So from that standpoint, you could say, all right, why go outside the organization for somebody you don't know versus somebody who's been here for 20 years that you do know and kept through Chip Kelly and actually Andy Reid and Chip Kelly and Doug Peterson and he's assistant head coach. He took over for Doug when Doug had COVID and all that kind of stuff. That's a Jeffrey Lurie question. But as far as the Lions are going to win one for Deuce, they're going to bite kneecaps for Dan Campbell. How's that working?
So far, to the tune of 0-7. And my thought on Deuce has always been they weren't going to hire him.
No.
Is he going to be a good head coach someday? Will he get the chance and prove to be a good head coach? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't know enough about Deuce. And yes, he did certain things that were nice prep work to eventually become an NFL head coach. He seems like a real good dude, so I'm rooting for him to get the chance somewhere. But if you ask me to make a prediction whether he'd be successful or not, I got no idea. I don't feel that strongly one way or the other that just give him a job, he's going to be great, or go ahead and hire him, but it's not going to work out. I don't feel either of those two things. I'm kind of sitting very much on the fence with Deuce. But one thing I'm not on the fence with is he had no chance to be the coach here, ever, because he's outspoken. He's not afraid to tell you what he thinks. He's a take charge kind of guy. He believes that he can get the job done and knows what he's doing. Eagles didn't want that as their next head coach. They wanted a very malleable guy. They wanted a guy that would grow like a flower, and they would be the ones tending the garden every single day, deciding exactly how the flower would grow. And if the flower got a little too big, like Doug Peterson did last year, that's not a problem. We'll just pull him right out of the ground and move on and plant another flower. That's what they were looking for. Deuce was coming straight through the soil as an oak tree, and they were not going to hire an oak tree to be their next head coach.
Boy, Nick Sirianni is not going to outlive. He's not going to let this flower thing down.
The flower narrative is here to stay, Johnny Mac.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. But as far as Deuce, I honestly look. I agree with you. They were never going to hire him, but I think it's for different reasons. I don't think it's because of malleable. I mean, if there's any guy that they kept around, as I said, for 2 decades essentially, when you talk about his playing career and his coaching career, and obviously he had a little stint when he was gone as a player, but 2 decades in the organization through 3 head coach, they thought this guy was pretty malleable. That wasn't the problem. The problem was, and again, this is where the disconnect is between the fan base and the ownership. Deuce is Deuce. Deuce would come in and run the team and want to run the football and play in 1985 style football when he was a player and that type of thing. And Jeffrey Lurie doesn't want that. I mean, he doesn't want that. It's, when Jeff McClain came out with the story that Brandon Staley didn't interview with the Eagles, which was known, he turned down an interview. Now, Jeff reported that he turned it down because of Howie Roseman. Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. He was going to take the Chargers job anyway because he's from there. You have Justin Herbert, which any coach is going to take that guy. But people are missing, they're burying the lead. Jeffrey Lurie isn't going to hire a defensive coach. He did it once when he was a first-time owner, and that was it. He's not going to do it again. The league, and even then, the league has shifted so much. So if you're Brandon Staley and you're Brandon Staley's representation, you know he wants to talk to you for the public relations aspect of it because it's a hot candidate and you want to look like you're doing your due diligence. But they know he's not hiring a defensive coach. And the same thing is, with Deuce Staley. He's not hiring a guy who wants to run the stinking football. He's not doing it. I mean, that's not what he wants. That's
Correct.
what it has to be. That's what it's about.
But as I said, if he were malleable, he'd come in and say, "Yes, Mr. Laurie, I'll run whatever kind of offense you want."
I'll say this because I do think he was a long-time team employee. He got along with everybody. It's not about being malleable as far as, okay, Deuce, you're going to be the head coach, but you got to throw the football. It's about that's not his expertise. So then you're going to have to hire an offensive coordinator, which, by the way, maybe wouldn't be a bad way to go, because I think head coaching positions, and I say this all the time, are about leadership more than anything else. As long as you got somebody else to be able to scheme the stuff, and you could have went about it in a different way, but that's not how the Eagles think. We had that discussion a while ago. They claim they're innovative. They're not innovative at all. They follow the leader. They do what everybody else does. They're not thinking outside the box. So they wanted an offensive coach who can scheme, and people are laughing at this because they say, I can already picture it because they say, well, Nick Sirianni can't do that. Well, yeah, but they thought he could. Whether he can or he can't is not what I'm trying to say. They thought he could, and they thought he was that type of coach. Now, if he is or he isn't, we'll see as this continues to go on. They don't want that type of coach that's going to run the football and act like Mike Zimmer and play defense and punt the football and flip the field. And by the way, they're right in that aspect, that small aspect of it. They're right. That's not the way the modern game is played. And you see you see the game yesterday, touchdown. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any receivers, and he almost scored 3 straight touchdowns. He's got guys who don't even know how to line up, and it's touchdown against an undefeated team. That's the NFL today. That's the NFL.
Yeah, but it ended up 24-21, which actually was an under. And it was a key defensive play by an ex-Eagle.
That's what you hope.
Russell Douglas coming up huge. Forget about Aaron Rodgers and his touchdowns. Russell Douglas won the game for the Packers last night. It
helps that AJ Green doesn't turn his head. In that type of situation, that's a veteran player. What were there, 14 seconds left? What does he think is done? It's a running play? What do you think, dude? You're out of timeouts. They just used their last timeouts. God bless Rasul. I mean, he got lucky. The ball came his way, and he made a great catch.
Yeah, nice catch.
But, I mean, if AJ Green turns his head, he's the GOAT. He's not the hero.
Right. But if Russell Douglas drops that, we got a field goal, boom, going to overtime. That game still could be going on.
Oh, he made a great catch.
Johnny on the spot.
That was always Rasul. Rasul had good ball skills. He really did.
He did. By the way, quick question, then we got to take our first break, and Mr. Football Friday, Ed Kratz, is going to join us. Is that just a read route? With 14 seconds left, they're actually calling a play where the quarterback and the wide receiver don't know what each other are going to do. You're just hoping that they have some ESP going and they know exactly what path. Does that really happen in the NFL?
Oh, my
God. Go out and I'll get it to you?
Oh, my God. Air raid, Jody. Air raid. Where does Cliff Kingsbury come from? You got to be on the same page. That's all you do. I tell you this all the time. What do you practice? That's what you run in the game. And that's why people think Arizona's offense is not sustainable long term. Now, that's a different argument. Some people think it is. Some people think it isn't. But that's modern football. That's modern football. You saw it, and there's good to it, and there's bad to it.
Right. And my take is, I get it. And if it can work for you, and shoot, they were undefeated before last night, so it's working pretty damn well, and they're scoring a lot of points. 14 seconds left. You got to put it aside and go back to old school football. Call a play, run a play so the receiver knows what he's doing. The quarterback knows what the receiver's doing, and you don't have A.J. Green never turn his head on the last offensive play of the game.
You don't run what you don't practice, Jody. You don't play air raid in practice and run old school football in the game.
And that's poor practice on Cliff Kingsbury. You got to be able to now say, guys, we're going to air raid it 90% of the time. But with 14 seconds left on the 3-yard line, we got to have a designated play. Sorry, Cliff, that's bad practice habits on you. Even though he's incorporated Zach Ertz pretty quickly. 4 catches last night.
Yeah, Zach
looks like he's been a Cardinal. Maybe he's an air raid guy. I don't know.
He looks faster.
Yeah,
all of a sudden he looks quicker and faster.
Got a little something extra in his giddy up. All right, we're going to giddy up on out of here. Coming back with our bud, Ed Kratz, Johnny's co-worker at Sports Illustrated. He's going to join us on a Football Friday here on Birds 365.